You know how certain foods can trap people and prevent them from losing weight, improving their health, and even feeling energized? Well, Dr. Joan Kent, our guest today, can help make little adjustments in your food that can effortlessly lower high blood pressure, boost your health, energy, and even help you shed weight. She's passionate about helping her clients shift their moods, transform their health, and feel what? Fantastic. Don't we all want to feel fantastic nowadays? Dr. Joan Kent, thanks for taking time out because I have some questions for you that I really want to know about.
Oh, my pleasure, Jody. Thanks for having me.
Oh, you're welcome. I want to know, how do you define self care?
Basically, pretty rudimentary. Think in terms of what I do for myself physically, what I do for myself mentally, emotionally, and just in general. I might as well give you specific examples rather than talking in general terms. For me, it involves meditation every day and working out every day, and also eating the right kinds of foods, because as with my specialty, what I know is that foods can affect us mentally and also emotionally. So taking care of myself in those three areas basically translates to a pretty good program of self-care.
What keeps you motivated for the self care? Because I can count on my hands and myself included where I say, oh, I'm going to do this and this, and it just peters out. What keeps you like that motivation?
That that's actually a good question. I guess I've been doing it for so long. For example, I enjoy meditating. I don't think it's boring. I don't think it's tedious. I just enjoy it. It's such a nice, relaxing feeling that I enjoy doing it. So I don't have to convince myself to do it every day. And working out, I know some people struggle with that. But once again, I'm one of those crazy people who loves to work out. And my background had involved some very serious and strenuous workouts. And I love those. Believe it or not, I actually loved it. So I'm not doing anything nearly as difficult now as I was then, but the loving of it has stayed with me. So I don't have to drag myself to the gym. I just want to go. And yes, there are times that I think, oh, wouldn't it be nice to sleep some more? No, got to stick on the schedule, and I just do it. So it's not something I have to convince myself of. And then if anybody reads my first book, they'll find out rather all about my struggle with sugar addiction. And so staying away from the junk is really easy for me because I don't want to go back to the way I used to feel then. So my motivation comes from knowing what all these things do for me and how good I feel when I'm doing them. And so that's where I get motivated.
And not wanting to go back. That's a big thing because I think sometimes we have short term memory loss. Um, how many people do you know say, oh, I ate so much, I'm going to do this and this, and they're always going to do something, but it's not there. And I always say, that's short term memory loss. Really. And to know that when we think about what I'm hearing from you is how you feel afterwards. You may not feel like getting up early or doing this particular regimen every day, but yet you get to feel good. So what's the scale is what I'm hearing from you, which is something that I think we all need to hear. And the other thing you said was that you said you don't do what you used to do. Now we're all over 50. I'm well over 60. Has it changed because of our times around the sun, or is it something what is the difference for you now?
The reason it changed is that the program I was in, which was, if you'll excuse the expression, a kick-ass program, was dismantled. So that program doesn't exist anymore. And so trying to put myself through those kinds of workouts all by myself when I don't have a program just became difficult. It's not, I still do high intensity intervals. And I do that 3 days a week, and I'm going for high heart rates. And if I can do high heart rates, if I can do that kind of thing several times a week, I feel as if I'm on the right track. So my doctor takes a look at my blood tests and all the stuff when I go for checkups. And he said, your stuff is better than mine. And he's a young, healthy guy. So I like that. And just, yeah, okay. I don't mind being healthier than my doctor. That's cool. So, and I'm old.
No, 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 no. We're evolving as I look at it.
Okay. Okay.
Well, what would you tell somebody? Because you're really very inspiring. What would you tell somebody who's sitting there, and some of us are couch potatoes, and just to get going, maybe not do quite the intensity you do, but to really get off? Of what would you say to somebody?
Oh, I think exercise, in terms of exercise.
Yeah, and perhaps also with the eating.
Oh, okay. Well, let's start with the exercise because it's kind of two different answers. But with exercise, um, find something that you like to do. Remember, exercise is just movement. So find something that you like to do. Even if it's just when I was a kid, I didn't enjoy gym classes because of the way they taught them. But one thing I definitely enjoyed was moving. So I used to put on my favorite songs and I would dance. And little did I know that was aerobic. This is before they had aerobics, if you can believe it. And I was creating my own aerobics because it was just fun to dance to my own songs. And I would be dripping with sweat and I'd have a great time. And, eventually my parents would say, turn off that music. But basically, it was just a way to do it. So if you're doing something that you like, I think that's one way to do it. And then start easy. Don't get crazy. Don't push yourself, and don't get into rigid. What do I want to say? Just rigid rules around it. Like, okay, today I'm going to do this, and tomorrow I'll do this, and maybe try a little bit more each time. But don't get into rigid rules around it because that can kill the excitement about it, I think, pretty quickly. And then with food, maybe it's the same thing. Just give yourself some room. And if you slip up, well, what's a slip up in a lifetime? Because this is a lifetime kind of thing. So what's a slip up today when you have a lifetime to go back to healthy eating? So let yourself just do that slip up and then go right back to it. But don't wait. Don't wait till Monday. People will start a diet on a Monday. Don't wait for that. Just keep on going. Go back at the very next meal, or at the least, go back the next day. So just give yourself room.
I can understand that. And, one of the things that I find very interesting is that you even have mentioned that food can actually help with Parkinson's disease. Am I understanding that correctly?
Yes. So the way this information for me came about is that a colleague of mine asked me to put together a presentation on exactly that, like what can people do about Parkinson's, people with Parkinson's, to manage their various symptoms. And so Parkinson's is not a specialty of mine. So I had to do some research, and I didn't research Parkinson's itself to any great degree. This was very rudimentary research. But what I discovered was what the main problems were, and then started applying what I know from other areas so that, yes, they can. In fact, exercise can too, and food can too, and that's really kind of cool. So knowing what I now know about Parkinson's, I thought it might be a genetic condition. A lot of times things can't be managed that well if they're genetic, but I found out that only about 10% of Parkinson's cases are genetic. And then also head trauma, that can cause it. And if someone's on medication, certain kinds of medication can result in it. But the good news is that the symptoms are reversible if they get off the meds. So there are those things, but by and large, we're looking at things that are environmental, being exposed to pesticides, being exposed to other kinds of toxins. That kind of stuff can bring it on. If someone lives near an industrial plant, and they're being exposed to those kinds of things, that can cause it. And the other thing is lifestyle in terms of what you eat. As soon as I saw the word inflammation, I said, now I know what we're talking about, because inflammation is the root cause of virtually any
Yes.
chronic disease. Uh, I might even say all
Yeah.
chronic disease.
Mhm.
So, how do you deal with that? Well, food has a lot to do with that. Food can either cause inflammation or help fight it. So, um, yes, what you said about yes, food can help with Parkinson's, and so can exercise, and that's really kind of cool.
I have a very basic understanding of Parkinson's. And when I think of Parkinson's, I think of shaking. I,
Yes,
I mean, I'm thinking of the shaking, people can't control their movements. And that's when I'm thinking that. So you're saying that the food can actually help with the shaking? Am I understanding right?
I, okay, I didn't find anything that was talking about it specifically, but just in general, if that's one of the symptoms and you're alleviating the symptoms, then yes, I would say what you just said is true. But mostly, instead of getting specific and say, well, will food help with this particular symptom, just look at the symptoms as a general thing. These are things that occur generally in Parkinson's, and foods can help. Um, there was a place I wanted to go with that. Uh, okay, basically, Parkinson's occurs when there is a reduction in dopamine in the brain. Brain is getting too little dopamine, and dopamine is a brain chemical that is associated with alertness and focus, and also, believe it or not, it's with reward in the sense that every single addictive substance, including sugar, whether we're talking about drugs or we're talking about sugar, all of them trigger the release of dopamine in the brain. So that's what's going on with dopamine. When someone has too little, then the dopamine signals to the brain, the input to the muscles is not getting through. And that's where the what you were talking about, the shaking occurs. But there are other things as well. They use a fancy term called bradykinesia, which basically just means you're moving in like slow motion. People kind of slowing down and having trouble moving. And it makes sense. I mean, if you've got somebody whose muscles are getting rigid and feeling stiff, they're going to be moving more slowly because it's just not comfortable to move. And for that matter, understandably, that affects the gut too, because we have muscles in the gut. And so it slows gut motility. And the next thing you know, you have people having problems with constipation. So all of these things can be a result of having Parkinson's. And then, as you can probably understand, food can change this. What we can do in terms of how we can eat to help manage. And so an anti-inflammatory diet in general, and I suppose that's different. There are so many people who have different ideas about what that is. But I'm going to go through the basics that I understand. In the first place, I think it's really important to have protein in there for a couple of reasons. And one has to do with the fact that protein is anti-inflammatory in the sense that it's the only kind of food that triggers the release of glutamine. And glutamine, excuse me, glutamine affects or counters the results of insulin, counters the effects of insulin, and insulin is one of the triggers of inflammation. If you have high insulin triggering foods, then bam, inflammation is almost a given. And that's, yeah, so sugar is a big insulin trigger, and as a result, it can trigger inflammation. But protein is the only kind of food that triggers the glutamine, which has the reverse effect, the opposite effect. So, in that sense, it's very important to eat protein. But the other thing is, protein carries the amino acids, which we learned about in seventh grade biology as the building blocks of protein. So these building blocks of protein are helping the brain make more protein. And if you remember that Parkinson's is coming from a low level of protein, no matter what triggered it, then eating lots of protein to help build up those levels of protein can help. those levels of dopamine. Lean protein, not the junky kind that's been fried and all of that. And then this sounds like a contradiction. I'm going to say fatty fish, but fish has the right kinds of fats. They have omega-3s, and those are anti-inflammatory and just anti-inflammatory. So we're looking at things like salmon, mackerel, sardines, any kind of fish would be fine because fish have omega-3s, and those are good fats. Also, things like crustacean, shrimp and crab and lobster, those things are fine. Now, you might want to not dip your lobster in butter. I know it tastes great when you do that, but you might want to skip that just to keep the saturated fats out of there.
Yeah.
But also chicken breast and lean beef, turkey, egg whites, and yogurt. And if you use yogurt, it should be a high protein yogurt that has at least 15 grams of protein per serving. Okay, because that's a protein food. Most yogurt that you just buy commercially does not have that much protein. Yes, and cottage cheese. And so go for low-fat or non-fat cottage cheese. And that way you've got the protein from the cottage cheese and not the fat that goes along with it. So those are animal proteins that can be used. And then the other would be plant proteins, things like lentils, beans, quinoa, tofu. That I think people know that. And you might be wondering why I didn't say nuts. And that's because nuts are not protein.
Okay, that's interesting. I thought they were. Must be me.
I write articles about this and I call it the myth that won't die. People keep saying that, nuts are protein. And they have a little. Every food we eat has a mixture of, macronutrients, protein, carbs, and fats. And everything we eat has a mixture of those. It's very rare that you'll find a food with only one. So when it comes to nuts, look at it this way. Nobody ever says about nuts, oh, what a great source of carbohydrates. Nobody says it because they're not.
No.
But they have less protein than that. Okay? They have less protein than they have carbohydrates for the most part. And yet everyone's always saying this is a high protein food. They're not. They're fats, and they're good, wholesome, healthy fats. And as a matter of fact, I was going to get onto that topic in just a moment. Because in addition to the proteins, we do want to eat healthy fats. And so that would include things like walnuts or walnut oil or avocados and avocado oil. Olive oil is good. And then I would list all different kinds of nuts, pistachios, macadamias, cashews. Coconut oil too. Coconut oil is also very good for us. Yeah, so all the nuts fall in this category of healthy fats. And walnuts have omega-3s, but all the other nuts have, for the most part, omega-9s, monounsaturated fats. Those are good.
Even if we think we might know some of it, hearing it again is very helpful also, because sometimes we say, oh, yeah, I've heard that, but at the same time, it might sink in more and maybe motivate us to eat something that is good for us.
Yes.
What keeps you motivated?
Like, I don't want to go back to the way I used to feel when I wasn't doing things the right way. So that keeps me motivated. And also the fact that I love what I do. As I said, I don't have to be convinced to meditate. I really enjoy that relaxation period. That's me time, and it just feels really nice. So same thing, and the same thing with working out. I just love it. So I don't have to be convinced. But I don't have any specific words that go through my mind. It's like, just get yourself to where you have to be. I think of motivation as getting where you have to go so you can do the things you have to do, so you can get the results that you say you want. It doesn't have anything to do with excitement. And anyone who tells you that motivation is about excitement, I think is missing the point. Motivation has nothing to do with it. It's the Nike slogan, just do it. That's it. That's motivation.
Would you share also some of the things that you can help our listeners with?
Oh, thank you for asking. My specialties include food addictions and sugar addiction for sure. Binge eating disorder. I did my doctoral research on that. And metabolic syndrome, that's with diabetes and insulin resistance, and cholesterol issues as well. And inflammation, we've been talking about it, inflammation, mood disorders, Mood disorders, moods can be changed by eating the right way. When I was eating sugar like a crazy woman because I was addicted to it. And this is all in my first book. You want to read about this crazy stuff that I used to do. Yeah, it's in there. But in those days, it affected me mentally because I couldn't focus, and I would go up and down and up and down with that, but up and down also in terms of mood. So I know that these things can affect us that way. Um, Anyway, and also if someone is interested in fueling for athletic endeavors, I can help with that as well. And if someone is sugar sensitive and they want to fuel for athletic endeavors, I can help you with the no sugar or the low sugar workout. So you don't have to always go for the Gatorade. You don't have to always go for most of the what would you call them? Just the aids, all the foods that people eat when they're working out tend to be sugary, and you don't have to do that. There are ways to get fueled without any of that. So that's the stuff I can help people with. I have an offer that I'm calling a Taste of Nutrition Coaching. So it's 1 month, 4 weeks of nutrition coaching with me, and it's for $99, and it's actually like a $500 offer. So I feel as if people will get we have enough time in that month to start getting some results. It's not like you get one nutrition appointment and then, well, where do you go from there? You have time to start getting results with it. So I would like to offer people that, and they just have to contact me at Dr. Joan, Dr. Joan, at lastresortnutrition.com. And all they have to do, like in the subject line, is mention that it was on Jody's podcast. If they just say Jody's podcast in the subject line, I'll know that it's about you, and I will make that offer for them. How does that sound?
That sounds like a great deal. And thank you very much for being part of LifeMaven podcast today. I really appreciate you.
I had a great time. Thank you very much, Jody.